Good afternoon. Thank you, everybody. This is a follow-up to an unfortunate incident that we had here in Sarasota County a couple weeks ago. The investigation into the shooting of Tyler Spann, a 20-year-old Venice man, is complete. After a thorough review, the State Attorney's Office has concluded that the shooting by Deputy Carlos Verdoni was a justifiable use of deadly force. His actions were also in compliance with agency policies. 4 local agencies were involved in the investigation process of this incident, inclusive of the Venice Police Department, the Medical Examiner's Office, the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, and the State Attorney's Office. An abundance of evidence was collected and compiled, including but not limited to forensic evidence that supports a physical struggle in which Deputy Verdoni was tackled to the pavement, forensic evidence that shows contact gun wound, a blood alcohol test, and several sworn witness statements. One statement was taken from a local physician who saw and heard the incident as an eyewitness. Based on the evidence and statements, the State Attorney's Office has concluded that although Deputy Verdoni did not know who was trespassing on his premises, Mr. Spann knew Deputy Verdoni was a police officer. I can assure you the sole objective of the investigation was to uncover all the facts of the case, allowing the State Attorney to make a determination based on the rule of law. That being said, I recognize the emotionally charged circumstances surrounding this incident and that a life has been lost. As a sheriff of Sarasota County and as a resident of the Venice area for the better part of 37 years, it's my hope that our community begins to heal and the healing process continues. I would ask you to keep the Spann family in your thoughts and prayers, and I also ask that you respect the privacy of Deputy Verdoni and his family. I know you've all had an opportunity. We've availed the report. We put everything out that we could available to you. I hope you had an opportunity to review it. We also made portions of any 911 tapes and telephone conversations available, but I'm here to take any type of questions that anybody may have in this case.
Do you believe him? Sorry, I have one quick question. Do you believe him? Do you believe this witness, the doctor?
It's a sworn witness statement. I would believe him, yes.
There are some inconsistencies in what he's told you, though. I mean, his description of the event is almost diametrically opposed to what Verdoni said. Verdoni has said that he was attacked, that the suspect was the onrusher. The doctor, in his sworn statement, said that did not happen, that the deputy walks toward him. Where's the explanation for that?
From my recollection of reviewing it and the State Attorney interviewing the doctor again, you got to remember the State Attorney not only works off the statements that are taped by the detective, the State Attorney interviews every individual who is involved in the case a second time. So those interviews are done by the State Attorney who has a final decision on the case.
I'm talking about yours.
I believe him.
Then
I have no reason not to believe
him. Why is it different from Verdoni's then?
I don't know. I don't believe they are.
It is. It is. I mean, can I ask you now? It is.
So one talks about an embrace, and another
he says that the guy doesn't go towards Verdoni. He turns. He stands and turns. He's told to comply, and then the deputy comes towards him, and he says specifically that he sees what's an embrace, and then
No, I think the statement that he makes. I don't have the State Attorney. I don't have a statement here. His statement on tape is that he saw the quote kid rush the sheriff, attack the sheriff.
He says that in a telephone call afterwards. But in the sworn?
That's his reported first impression.
That's his reported first impression.
First thing he says is, I saw the guy get up and attack the officer.
But why, when he has time to think about it, does he, is that troublesome? I mean,
it's understandable in a stressful situation.
I would say also that it's also consistent with the forensic evidence that we have from Verdoni. The photographs of his cuts and abrasions on his left rear, his scrapes and abrasions. If you look at the forensic report.
Couldn't that, those have also occurred in any kind of stuff that was precipitated by the deputy? I mean, I'm not trying to be tough.
No.
This is a point that's been I'm sorry.
Right. No, I agree.
That Hicks tells a different story than Verdoni. And I keep trying to rationalize that.
Hicks' statement on the telephone call to the Venice police and his sworn tape statements speak for themselves.
How about the time difference? He says it's as long as 8 minutes, and he may have fallen asleep for 5 of those minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got other people in the house saying it's 30 seconds. I rush in, change my gear,
Right.
and all of a sudden, bang, bang.
The time is off the tape telephone, off the radio transmissions and the telephone calls
To Officer Law.
to the Venice Police Department.
By Higgs.
Right.
Higgs' phone call, and then the radio dispatch.
Right.
And what is the time frame there?
I don't have that in front of me. 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
Sheriff, did
Mhm.
Deputy Verdoni follow all protocol? Because they're saying that he didn't turn on his lights until after the shooting. Is this consistent with?
That's his discretion, that he avails himself to the community, and he came out and he turned his lights on after the situation occurred, after he located a suspect. Mm-hmm.
How is Deputy Verdoni doing now? When will he be rejoining the force?
We're hoping to have him back in service and back on the road here soon.
Soon as in a couple days, couple weeks?
Could be tonight.
Does it trouble you, the conflict of what the doctor said on the phone and then what his statement was later on?
Not at all. The statements that he made and the subsequent interview that he had with the state attorney, if there was any conflict at all, I'm sure the state attorney would get that resolved, but not at all. I think his statements speak for themselves.
And when an officer is off duty and he becomes on duty right away,
Mhm.
I mean, did he have a uniform on? He had flip-flops?
He was in plain clothes.
That was all correct protocol?
Yes, exactly.
Then can you explain that, or I mean, elaborate on
About,
that?
well, you have to remember is that we have patrol vehicles in the neighborhoods as a deterrent effect for crime in neighborhoods. This is nothing new to our community, nothing new to law enforcement. In this case, he has a patrol vehicle, a marked patrol vehicle. He also has his weapons that are assigned to him. The community likes that, and it avails them the opportunity to respond to crimes and rapidly. That's what we require. In this case, the trespass occurred on his property, and that's what initiated his response out to his patrol vehicle.
Should he have gone 1018?
I'm sorry?
Should he have been 1018 after these guys? Licensed irons? I mean, should he have been licensed irons after these guys if he's doing 45, 50?
It's his discretion how he searches for a perpetrator or trespasser.
And you really think that was appropriate? I mean, hindsight now, obviously.
Absolutely. That was appropriate. His actions of responding to a crime were appropriate.
But, I mean, when knocking on, banging on the front door,
Yeah.
that's trespass?
Well, you have to remember, the crime, the consequence of the action, the trespass, the banging on the door, the ringing on the doorbell, whatever it is, that has nothing to do with the shooting. The consequence of the action was the attack on a deputy. The individual was not shot for ringing a doorbell, banging on the door, trespassing on the property. He was located, the deputy was following procedures and waiting for a backup to arrive, and he was subsequently attacked. So the consequence to the action of the attack on the deputy was the unfortunate portion of the shooting.
But the pursuit of them, was that appropriate?
Absolutely.
What's
For
the
banging
crime?
on a door?
What's the crime?
For the trespass.
How's it a trespass if he's not legally warned?
He was on his property.
Jim, can you take it?
Mhm.
Sorry. How is it a crime if he's not legally warned? I mean, isn't he afforded an opportunity to expel? I mean, isn't he supposed to be given an opportunity to leave?
He did. He ran away. He was trespassing on a property. He ran away, as you read in the report.
Doesn't trespassing, don't you have to tell somebody you're trespassing? You need to leave, you are trespassing.
No, somebody's banging on his door to dispel his knowledge that a crime is not being committed on his property, in his neighborhood. He has the opportunity, and he has the responsibility, he has the right to quell that information in his mind that a crime could be committed on his property or in the neighborhood.
Sheriff, we had an email from a viewer asking, procedurally, they were just curious,
Mhm.
when an off-duty officer responds to something, and there's an officer involved shooting, do you also do any sort of, they asked if any sort of blood alcohol test or anything like that is administered to an off-duty officer? If that's part of the
Like
protocol?
any case, if there's a reason to take blood, we would take blood, but there was no cause to take blood in this case.
But he was off duty.
Mm-hmm. But like any case we work, if we have suspicion or reason to take the blood, in any homicide investigation, death investigation, we have a reason to take the blood, we would. In this case, there was no cause.
Can you talk about how this has affected maybe the department or the community after all this happened?
Well, that's a small, close-knit community, and it's very unfortunate. I think any law enforcement shooting affects the individual and really puts the job, the responsibility of doing this job in perspective. I would say that the understanding that what could happen at any time always refreshes the memory of how things can go wrong rapidly when procedures are properly followed, but the compliance of a perpetrator deteriorates rapidly. And we've all seen it happen over our careers at some point in time. So, the unfortunate part is that he didn't remain on the ground and comply with the directions, and he got up and attacked the deputy. So I can assure you that nobody in this office or this department wish that would have happened.
Sheriff, have you talked to people in the community,
Mm-hmm.
and have you specifically talked to the Spann family, and have you talked to them since this report came out?
I talked to Mr. Spann the day of the incident, and I had talked to him since then, and I spoke with him, visited with him this morning.
And how is the family doing?
As we do expect when you lose somebody a part of your family, as any of us would if you lose somebody part of your family. So,
and what was his response to you when you notified him?
I would say my conversations with Mr. Spann should be kept private, out of respect to him and his family.
How tough has it been on you in Venice?
I'm sorry?
How tough has it been on you in Venice? You're from there, man.
Well, every community has its own informal leadership and informal leaders, and it's unfortunate the Venice community doesn't see this type of incident occur. They had their first murder in 10 years, so it's very unfortunate, and a healing process needs to commence in the Venice area, and hopefully we have some informal leadership down in that community that can help get over it, and hopefully we have some adults in that community that will help young adults recognize what has happened and guide them in the proper direction.
Is Hayes facing any charges?
Not at this time.
Do you remember the last time this sort of incident happened?
Here in Sarasota County? I don't remember anything off the top of my head in Sarasota County, so.
They already protested in front of the deputy's house, I understand. Do you fear there's going to be more trouble?
I want to state the facts of this case. That's what I came here for, to provide you guys with as much information as we could, let you ask me a few questions, and not speculate about what may occur in the future. And I hope I answered your questions. And
One more. Did you or your deputies or your detectives uncover any information that Tyler Spann was known to fight or was a known fighter? Did you ever talk to anybody that? I mean, I just got to ask you on the record. Does anybody have any knowledge of him?
There's a lot of speculation, but we don't have anything from any independent witnesses or any statements from anybody that occurred. Okay, thank you.